Today's composer focus is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The text I will read aloud comes from the book Lives of the Musicians, Good Times, Bad Times, and What the Neighbors Thought by Kathleen Krull. No ordinary baby. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, born in Salzburg, Austria, 1756, died in Vienna, Austria, 1791. Austrian composer who in his short life wrote many masterpieces, including symphonies, operas such as The Magic Flute and Don Giovanni, and piano music. Until he was 3, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was an ordinary baby. Then he began climbing up on the bench and imitating the clavier playing of his talented older sister, Maria Anna. At age 4, he made up his own compositions and studied violin. He insisted that all his activities be accompanied by music. His father noticed that it was difficult to teach him music. He seemed to know everything already. By the time he was 5, he would stay up late, practicing by candlelight. The next year, 6-year-old Mozart went on tour, traveling by stagecoach all around the bumpy roads of Europe. From all of his travels, Mozart eventually learned to speak 15 languages. He played for royalty, for the well-known musicians of the day, and in bars. At 7, he proposed marriage to Marie Antoinette, the future Queen of France. At 8, he was composing symphonies. And at 11, he composed his first opera. When composing, Mozart wore an apron to keep the ink off his clothes. He wore a little velvet coat with lace ruffles and gold embroidery, and a little gold sword at his side. He was known then as the most kissed little boy in Europe. Today we think of him as the greatest musical prodigy who ever lived. Mozart had a strange and exhausting childhood. He was so often ill that some people worried about how much longer he would live. He was sweet and affectionate, most anxious to please. His special talent meant he never had to go to school. His father gave him lessons. Mozart especially liked arithmetic and covered tablecloths and wallpaper with rows of figures. Mozart loved animals. He sent the family dog, a terrier named Bimperl, greetings from cities all over Europe. In London, he broke off a concert to run after a cat that had wandered in. Later in life, he owned 2 other dogs, Bukerl and Catherl, a pet grasshopper, and various birds. As a child, Mozart was cute, with rosy cheeks and bright eyes. As an adult, though, his skin was yellowish, scarred from smallpox, and his blue eyes were bulgy. He was short and thin, and his head was too big for his body. Yet he was concerned about his appearance. He took care to have elegant clothes, and he had a barber work on his hair much more often than most people did. Mozart fell madly in love with Aloysia Weber, cousin of composer Carl Maria von Weber, his landlady's daughter. But she rejected him, and he married Constance Weber, her sister. Constance was like Mozart in many ways: musical, not especially attractive, he called her Little Mouse, and playful. They had 6 children, but only 2 lived to adulthood. Music was the one thing that made Mozart's face light up. He usually woke up at 6, composed till 9, gave music lessons till 1, though he didn't enjoy teaching, then had lunch at someone's house where he had to entertain his host. Then, unless there was a concert to attend, he composed far into the night. He could get by on as little as 4 hours sleep. Doctors told him he needed to get more regular recreation, which may be why he eventually bought a pool table. He wrote music more quickly than almost any other composer in history, and he sometimes put off things till the very last minute. If he had to work through the night, Constance would tell him tales about Cinderella or Aladdin to keep him awake. His best ideas came when he was in a good mood, alone, and undisturbed. "What a delight this is, I cannot tell," he once wrote. "All this inventing, this producing, takes place in a pleasing, lively dream." He could write down his ideas at meals. He liked liver dumplings and sauerkraut, while gossiping with friends, and even while playing pool. Once he held his wife's hand during childbirth, and with his other hand wrote several pieces of music. One day a visitor found Mozart and his wife dancing in their house, and Mozart explained that they had run out of firewood and were trying to stay warm. Mozart spent money faster than he could earn it, and he was always in debt. Part of the problem was that aristocrats paid him for music with things like watches and snuff boxes, not the cash he needed to live on. A letter that he wrote asking for a loan sold 2 centuries later for 100 times the amount he had pleaded for. There were plenty of people who didn't like Mozart. They thought he was rude, immature, and irresponsible. One person who knew Mozart well said that she never heard him say one serious thing. He could be impatient with people who were not as bright as he was. Although his father was always bombarding him with advice on how to make money and meet the right people, Mozart had trouble finding and keeping jobs. Once, he lost a court appointment by being obnoxious and got himself literally kicked out of court. "There is the door. I will have nothing more to do with such a villain," said the man who fired him. Mozart was scared of ghosts and loud noises, and he was superstitious, which explains his reaction to the tall, mysterious stranger who came to his house one night. Dressed all in gray, the stranger commissioned him to write a requiem, or funeral mass. The stranger would never give him his name, but kept nagging Mozart to finish. Fearful and convinced somehow he was writing his own burial music, Mozart worked feverishly. Eventually, the stranger was revealed to be a messenger from an eccentric count who had a habit of having well-known composers write something he could pass off as his own in private performances. But by that time, Mozart had died of kidney failure and malnutrition. Mozart had spent 14 years of his short life on the road, and he had never been very healthy. He was only 35 when he died. Some people feel that fear of the stranger hastened his death. Plays, operas, and movies have been written about the theory that he was poisoned by rival composer Antonio Salieri, but this rumor has never been proved. At the peak of his career, Mozart earned as much money in one concert as his father earned in a year. Yet at the time of his death, he owned very little. He had 6 coats, 5 red, his favorite color, and 1 white for court, 3 silver spoons, and 346 books. His most expensive possessions were his walnut piano and his pool table. Mozart was unhappy with the way one of his singers responded when she was called on to shriek in the opera Don Giovanni. One day he crept up behind her and grabbed her at exactly the right moment. She gave him just the shriek he wanted. One of Mozart's most famous light-hearted compositions is the string serenade Eine kleine Nachtmusik, a little night music, written 2 months after his father died and as Mozart was recovering from a serious illness. The Piano Concerto No. 21 is now known as Elvira Madigan, not after a friend of Mozart's, but after a 20th century movie that used this as its theme song. More recordings of Mozart's music are bought today than recordings of any other composer's work. To play all of Mozart's music in a row would take 202 hours.